Good evening, this is BelGeode and we are back with some more X-Plane 11 in virtual reality. Howdy folks, and we are back here in X-Plane 11, and we're at a place that is familiar to those of you who've been watching my channel for any length of time. We are in Meigs Field, and tonight we are sitting in our chariot for this evening, which is the Bell 412 by X-Trident, and my good buddy Enzio over here, and of course the triplets are in the back. So yeah, tonight we're actually not here to show off Orbx's Chicago and Meigs Field, even though that is our starting point. I'm just using that as a point of reference for the airport that we're actually going to be showing off for tonight. But since we're here, might as well show you around just a little bit. Of course, this is the world famous Meigs Field, which no longer exists because it was taken down by the mayor of Chicago in the middle of the night one night. So it was located right here. It is now officially fictional. For those of you who've been flight simming for a while, this is an area that's very familiar to you. Now, the Orbx version also comes with downtown Chicago, which is part of the reason why I'm using this. And we are going to be headed here, Chicago O'Hare Airport by Nimbus Simulations. That is the whole point of this video tonight. So we're going to take off and we're going to take a look around downtown Chicago and see how Orbx has done things, and then we're going to head over to O'Hare and check out how Nimbus has done things. And we've even got it tracked on our GPS here, which is why I'm pointing to that. And let me just make sure everything else is pretty much kosher before we take off. Altimeter's set, gauges are looking good. Okay, yes, looks like everything is copacetic. Alright, so we're going to take off and we are going to head around downtown Chicago for a few, and then we're going to make our way west-northwest towards O'Hare Airport, and we're going to spend the latter half of this video simply checking out the majesty that is Chicago O'Hare. Whoops, a little bit of a skiddy stop there, but other than that, we are just about ready to go. So, quick final check here. Everything checks out. Enzio, you ready to go, buddy? Enzio is ready to go. Alright, so we'll lift up the collective a little bit on this Bell 412, and we will get going. Now, I gotta say, I'm still a little bit bummed about the fact that the only way that we will ever see Meigs Field anymore is in flight simulators such as this, or FSX, P3D, or even Aerofly FS2, all of which you've seen this airport before in, if you've watched any of those videos. But yeah, 2003, Mayor of Chicago at the time, in the middle of the night, went and ordered bulldozers to come tear this whole place down. Didn't even give the standard 30-day notice to the FAA before he did it, which I think was a real slimeball move. And supposedly the reason why he had all of that done was because he wanted to dedicate and expand the park that is currently in the center of downtown Chicago. Pretty much the park was built for his wife. It wasn't really built for the city. But yeah, he wanted to add on to it, and poor Meigs Field got the cut. It's a shame. It's a real shame, because this was such an awesome airport. And like I say, it has a history for those of us who've been doing flight simulation for a while, because this used to be the default airport for the Microsoft Flight Sim products at one point in time before they switched to Friday Harbor. Alright, but let's take a look at what Orbx has done with downtown Chicago. This is probably the only scenery that I have for all the simulators that it's available for. And that is just because I love flying over places like this. Soldier Field, where the Bears play, and of course you've got all the various museums and so on. Lots of awesome stuff. And even the park is kind of impressive, and you can see the bean way off in the distance. And of course, in typical Orbx fashion, all the skyscrapers look ultra realistic. I gotta say though, this particular version of the scenery doesn't look as good, in my opinion, as like the Aerofly FS2 version. The Aerofly version has like the proper shine and reflection and so on and so forth. And even though this was the first scenery that Orbx has brought to X-Plane 11, they kind of skimped a little bit. It's definitely lacking some of the luster that it has with the other simulators. Alright, but with that having been said, we're going to go around Navy Pier here, pass by my favorite little Ferris wheel, which is also no longer there. And then we will go through the downtown area. We'll stop by the Sears Tower. Yes, I know it's called the Willis Tower now, but it will forever be referred to as the Sears Tower as far as I'm concerned. I will never refer to it as anything else. So there you go. Alright, but as we pass by Navy Pier, you can see the Ferris wheel that I was talking about. Used to be a very hot attraction, however, nope, not there anymore. And I'm thinking one of these buildings over here, I don't know if it's this one or maybe it's one that's a little bit further inland, was actually the building that was used, or the building that was supposed to represent where the Jeffersons lived. Remember the old theme song for the Jeffersons? They're moving on up to the east side. Well, this is the east side here. And of course they lived in Chicago, so presumably they were in one of these buildings here. It definitely was not this building in front of me. This, of course, needs no introduction. That is the Trump Tower. That's all we'll say about that. So we're just going to pass it by on the left. And we're going to head over to the Sears Tower, because that is the one that I really want to see. Alright, I think we got the river down there. Yep, okay, so I know I'm heading the right way. I think what I'll do is I'll swing out a little bit to the left here, and then we'll kind of turn around and go around the other side of the Sears Tower. Once we pass by that area and pass by the river, we'll then turn and get on a direct heading to O'Hare International Airport. I do have it programmed in the GPS as I showed you earlier, so I'm just going to engage the autopilot, and we'll probably cut the video short at that point in time. We'll do the magic of editing, so that way you don't have to sit there for the entire 15-minute journey to the airport. But there it is, folks. There's the Sears Tower. Awesome building. At one point in time, the tallest skyscraper in the world. It, of course, has been eclipsed by the Burj, which is in Dubai. Alright, but no time like the present to get going, so let's put on that autopilot and head to O'Hare. One of the things that I really admire about the Orbx Chicago scenery is the fact that it includes so much of the suburbs and the outlying areas of Chicago. As a matter of fact, you see that little forest there. I want to say that's pretty much the end of where the Orbx scenery is. And then of course you can see off in the distance Nimbus's Chicago O'Hare Airport. Now I'm not even sure just how much of the surrounding area Nimbus put in there, but suffice to say, I really can't tell much of a difference between where Orbx ends and where Nimbus starts. And as far as I'm concerned, that is a really, really good thing. Alright, but let's go to the outside and take a quick look at the airport before we descend. Okay, we are going to do a quick auto rotation down. Now it's not going to be exactly by the book, so we might be coming down a little bit quicker than I would like, but I have all faith in the Bell 412 to be able to pull it off. Meanwhile, let me tell you a little bit of quick facts about O'Hare Airport. First and most important thing is that it was opened in February of 1944. It was actually part of an airfield for the military back in World War II. And as such, it was named for Edward Butch O'Hare, which was a U.S. Navy Medal of Honor recipient during that war. It was also used as an active fighter base for the Air Force during the Cold War with Russia. And currently, it sits on 7,627 acres of land, making it one of the busiest, if not one of the biggest, airports in the United States. I think like Denver and Atlanta, and I want to say Pittsburgh's also in the running as far as just sheer size of airports. It is home to 3 of the major carriers, in particular United and American, but Delta also has a pretty sizable presence here as well as smaller airlines such as like Frontier and Spirit, but we don't talk too much about Spirit. That's all I will say about that. It's been modernized over the years, and I'm going to show you one of the areas where Nimbus took some creative liberty and really did it justice. Now I'm going to give you all another little fun fact about the history of this airport. When it was originally began, it was also partially a manufacturing plant for Douglas C-54s. At that time, this property was called Orchard Place. So have you ever wondered why Chicago's IATA and ICAO codes are ORD? They end in ORD. That's why. It was named after Orchard. And it took until 1949 when they decided to rename it after O'Hare, since of course O'Hare was the U.S. Navy's first flying ace for World War II, that they decided to keep the IATA code and the ICAO code the same. That's why you always see that it looks a little bit weird for Chicago to be one of the very few airports whose codes don't actually reflect what the name of the airport is. There you go. Fun fact, you probably did not know that. Okay, so we are currently hovering close to Terminal C, and you can see off in the distance Terminal B. Now this one has a very strong connection with me because every time I fly through Chicago, it's usually on a United Airlines, and I usually end up in one of these 2 terminals. They are, in my opinion, some of the most gorgeous airport terminals in the world. And bear in mind, I've only really ever been to the United States and of course Jamaica, so I can't really say with any certainty it is the most beautiful airport terminal in the world, but I can say it is definitely one of my favorites. I love being inside these terminals. Now the reason why we're going slowly around is I want to call your attention to certain things. So I'm going to switch to the outside view and you can get a closer look at some of the things that I'm going to be talking about. But then I'm going to show you something extra special. For example, look at that. You see those information displays, right? They are on every single gate here at O'Hare. Now the other thing that you're going to notice as we get closer to Terminal B here is going to be the amount of detail that Nimbus has put inside this airport. That's right. It's been a while since I've actually shown you an airport where they fleshed out the interior. I think the last one was Airworthy Designs St. Martin. But I'm going to show you the inside of this thing here. You can see my landing lights already illuminating some of the models in there. There's actually people walking around inside Terminal B, folks. There's actually people moving around in there. Naturally, since we're in VR, we're going to have to get a closer look. So I'm just going to park us right here. Obviously, the marshaler's like, why the heck did this dude park here? But you know what? We're just going to ignore him. What I'm going to do now is similar to what I did before with St. Martin. We're actually going to go inside the airport and take a look at it from that point of view. Folks, I am standing inside Terminal B of Chicago O'Hare International Airport. And let me just tell you, this is exactly what it looks like in real life. This is just amazing. Of course, you can see where Nimbus took a few shortcuts here and there. But the fact that any of this is even modeled to begin with is nothing short of truly amazing. Even the dude walking around with his luggage there. Now please bear in mind that if you were to ask Santiago from Nimbus, he's going to say he really didn't intend for people to do what I'm doing here. But I want to take a special point of making sure that you understand he did not have to do any of this. But he still did. And let me tell you something, folks, as someone who's been in this terminal a few times, he got everything right. The only thing that's missing are the dinosaur bones. There's usually a brachiosaur right over there. Now here's another place that I know all too well. This is, of course, the Hilton at the airport. I have stayed in this hotel. I remember this was back when I was working for the phone company, Verizon at the time. And I used to take like little weekends off and just basically travel to airports that I've never been to before and just kind of chill there. And I came to Chicago as kind of like a birthday gift for myself. And I remember it also happened to be the Marine Corps' birthday that weekend, so I ended up hanging out with a bunch of Marines and so on. It was the coolest time that I've ever had in Chicago without actually leaving the airport. And here's another little thing that I really appreciate. Look at the control tower. There are people manning all the stations inside the control tower. That is too cool. You can see their little work terminals and everything. This is the kind of stuff that I look for, folks, when it comes to scenery, especially scenery of this caliber. And it's kind of ironic, now that I really think about it. Yes, this is a commercial airport. This is definitely one of the larger commercial airports. So the majority of you that are going to be purchasing this scenery, which of course, needless to say, I highly recommend you do it, you're going to be flying commercial planes. Well, here's the thing though. You guys that fly the commercial planes, I don't think you really do appreciate nearly as much as someone like myself flying around in a helicopter around this airport. All the little teeny tiny details that are put into this thing, because usually what are you doing? You're sitting there in your Airbus or in your Boeing, you're getting everything prepped, you're doing your FMC work, you know, you're getting your clearance, and then you taxi out, you get your clearance to take off, and you're gone. And that's it. That's the last you see of the airport until you come back in whenever it is that you decide you want to revisit Chicago. But who actually does stuff like this? Who actually gets down into the nitty-gritty and checks to see if every single one of these terminals has people in there, which, by the way, they do, and checks to see if every single one of these terminals do retain the same real-life charm that they have. And that's one of the things you'll notice about O'Hare. Every single terminal is different. Even though there are some design commonalities between a lot of these terminals, they all have their own individual charm. And if you were to do what I just did a couple of minutes ago and go inside the terminal, you will see that the interior layout is completely different per terminal. It really doesn't get much better than that. So I have a challenge for all of you commercial flyers out there. The next time you come into Nimbus Chicago O'Hare and you're just kind of chilling before your next long haul, why don't you do what I did? Take some time, get out of that cockpit, go around the airport, look and see how many of these little people you can actually see inside. See if you can find like the food court and places like that. See if you can find how many vending machines there are in here. Just do stuff like that. And I think that will bring you a greater appreciation for how much time, effort, energy, blood, sweat, and tears it takes to make something like this. Now, speaking of AI and the like, as we go over this parking lot here, probably one of the least interesting parts of the airport, I do need to point out to you that this airport comes in basically two flavors. You have two options when you set it up. You can set it up to have all of the static AI aircraft, as I have done, because let's face it, the likelihood of me actually flying a commercial aircraft is going to be pretty slim in X-Plane. It's once in a blue moon you will ever see me flying any kind of commercial, and there's usually a story behind it. But the other way you can set this thing up is without the static aircraft. And why would you want to do something like that? Because this thing is ready straight out of the box for stuff like World Traffic 3 and some of the other AI aviation generation programs that are out there that you can include with your X-Plane. So keep that in mind. And also, if you set it up without the static AI, that'll help you if you're ever on stuff like VATSIM, for example. You can see, you know, the real life pilots, I should say, in fake aircraft, and you can actually, you know, interact with everybody at an airport that basically is built to look like real life. I mean, look at that. You've got taxiways going over the highway. That's something that's there in real life. It's really awesome. Alright, we are going to take a look at a couple more spots at this airport, one of which is going to be the International Terminal. I won't go through the whole interior and everything, and I'm just going to kind of zoom past, but suffice to say, everything that you've seen thus far holds true for the International Terminal as well. There's people inside. There's all kinds of little Easter eggs, I guess you would say, that they've got all throughout this terminal. You can see the airlines, the static airlines that are there. If you have AI flying, you can also set them up to leave from this terminal and so on and so forth. All the things that you've so far come to expect just from watching this video, they all hold true in every single sector of this airport. With the notable exception of the cargo area, because let's face it, you're not going to see a whole lot of people in a cargo terminal. Maybe a couple of workers here and there, but you can tell that that is an area that they can afford to skimp on. But when it comes to the rest of the airport and everything that you're seeing that involves some kind of a human interaction, yeah, this is definitely worth the 2 thumbs up that I am giving it. Absolutely outrageous. And I can't thank Nimbus enough. Full disclosure, I was given a review copy of this airport specifically for this video, so huge shout out to Nimbus. And in honor of that, we're gonna do a little bit of a hammerhead here as my form of respect to an excellent, excellent scenery creator. Alright, so we'll take one final look outside, and I'm gonna make my way to the southern cargo area. That's where I'm gonna call it quits. I will leave the rest of it to your imagination after you have purchased this airport for yourself, and I highly recommend you just look around and take it all in. I also want to mention another important point with this airport scenery package. You get either 2K or 4K. You actually get both in the package. What that means is if you would like to have full 4K scenery textures and orthophotos and whatnot, it's in there. You can opt for that. For the purposes of this video, I've gone a little bit lighter. I've gone with the 2K. Because especially recording with VR on, it's notorious for eating up a lot of my frames per second. So with that in mind, you can still get a pretty decent idea of what this airport really looks like, and it looks good even on 2K. So I can only imagine what it would be like on 4K. But I'm going to leave that to you to check it out. I can tell you that I have not noticed any serious issues with FPS with this airport. This is one of the better performing airports as far as FPS goes, which I still haven't sorted out my issues with Nimbus's version of St. Bart's, but we're not in St. Bart's today, so I'm not going to worry about it. I am, however, going to go around this control tower here, and we'll fly over that Atlas Air 747, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to set her down on the far side past that DC-10. Yeah, looks like we got plenty of parking here. If there's one minor complaint that I would have about this airport, which holds true for a lot of what these developers do, there's no distinct helipads in here. Now come on, I know Chicago is a massive, massive airport. There's got to be helipads around here somewhere. So I'm just going to throw this out for all developers of scenery. Whenever you're coming up with stuff like this, even if it's commercial, and even if your target audience are commercial aviation virtual pilots, keep us helicopter dudes in mind, please. We know we've got to land somewhere. We would just kind of like to have spots dedicated to us. So again, I'm not picking on Nimbus directly, although it is kind of affected. But yeah, keep that in mind whenever you come up with your airports. Always try to find where the helicopters park, even if it's slightly outside of the airport property. Maybe there's a hospital next door. Model a hospital, throw a helipad on top. Trust me, we will love you for it. And on that note, I am done. So I want to thank you all for watching. This has been BelGeode. I have been flying in X-Plane 11, and I've been showing off Nimbus Simulations Chicago O'Hare International Airport. This is currently available. The link to it is in the video description below, as well as the link to the Orbx Meigs and Chicago scenery that we saw on our way out here. Be sure to pick it up, and if you enjoy what you have seen on this particular video, please be sure to give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I will be back sometime in a very, very near future, not only with new scenery, but also brand new aircraft, some of which might surprise you when you actually find out what aircraft it is I'm going to do. But for now, I'm going to call it quits. So once again, thank you to everyone for your love and for your viewership. I love you guys, and I will talk to you later. Ciao!